My ex invited me to his wedding to show off his wealthy fiancée, but my plus one turned the tables. When I got the wedding invitation from Dylan, my first reaction was confusion. It had been just 2 months since our explosive breakup. The one where he drunkenly confessed to using me for money, dismissed my career, and insulted me for not being complacent like Bella, the wealthy daughter of an industrialist he had started seeing. The invitation wasn't subtle. It was practically dripping with wealth. Cream-colored cardstock, gold embossing, and an unnecessarily detailed RSVP that included a dress code, black tie only, and a note, "Join us in celebrating our love and future, surrounded by elegance and success." I knew what this was, a power play. Dylan wanted to show off his new life, his rich fiancée, and prove he had upgraded. I could feel the smugness in every word. At first I considered tossing the invite, but then I had a better idea. I'd go, not to play games, but to show him I wasn't the same woman he walked all over. And I had the perfect person in mind to take as my plus one, Lucas. Lucas, 32M, and I had met through a leadership seminar at work a few months after Dylan moved out. He was a visiting consultant from London, sent to help streamline operations. Smart, charismatic, and ridiculously charming, Lucas and I had hit it off over shared jokes about corporate jargon and late-night sushi dinners during deadline week. He knew all about Dylan, not because I'd vented, okay, maybe a little, but because Lucas could read people like a book. When I told him about the wedding and joked about needing a trophy date, he smirked and said, "Count me in." Let's give them a night to remember. The wedding day. I wore a floor-length emerald green satin dress, elegant but bold. Lucas showed up looking devastatingly good in a tailored tuxedo, his British accent and quiet confidence only adding to the effect. As we entered the venue, heads turned. I won't lie, it felt good. Dylan's face when he saw me? Priceless. His eyes widened. Bella, standing beside him in a custom designer gown, gave me that same look of contempt from the night she came to my apartment. Only this time, it faltered when Lucas extended his hand and greeted her like the gentleman he is. During the reception, Lucas charmed the guests. Witty, well-read, kind. Every time someone asked how we met, he'd say with a warm smile, "At work. She's brilliant. One of the most capable women I've met." I could feel Bella watching, and Dylan's fake smile began to twitch with discomfort. At one point, Dylan cornered me near the bar and asked, "So, who is he? Your boss?" I smiled sweetly. "Nope, just a friend who respects me." He scowled, muttering something about showing off. I shrugged and said, "Funny. That's what this whole wedding feels like." The twist. Later that evening, during the speeches, something truly unexpected happened. The best man, apparently Dylan's cousin, got a little too drunk and a little too honest. "Let's raise a glass," he slurred, "to Dylan, who always knew how to land on his feet. I mean, come on, the guy used to crash at his ex's place for free. Now look at him. Landed a mansion and a wife with a trust fund. That's some hustle." The room went silent. Bella's smile faded. Dylan looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Lucas leaned over and whispered in my ear, "This just got interesting." Aftermath. Bella didn't say much the rest of the night. Word spread fast. I didn't need to do anything. Dylan's own people had done the damage. We left before dessert. No need to stay for the awkward unraveling. A week later, I heard from our mutual friend that Bella had postponed the honeymoon. Rumor was she wasn't thrilled about Dylan's past being aired so publicly. For me? I went back to my peaceful apartment, grateful for the growth and the boundaries I'd learned to set. I didn't need revenge. Life had handled that for me. And as Lucas and I shared a celebratory glass of wine later that evening, he raised his glass and said, "To freedom, resilience, and knowing your worth. And I couldn't have said it better myself. A few weeks ago, I came across engagement pictures of my ex, Dylan, and his fiancée, Bella. They looked happy, radiantly so. And while I felt a pang of sadness for how Dylan had used me for years, I also realized that I would have never been truly satisfied with him anyway. In a way, I was relieved he had found someone who could match whatever version of happiness he was chasing. That same night when I got home and checked my mailbox, I found an unexpected wedding invitation. My heart skipped a beat when I saw. It was from Dylan and Bella. At first, I thought it might have been a mistake, or perhaps a forced courtesy invite. But when I opened it, I saw something scrawled in the corner of the card. I want you to attend my wedding so you can see the grand life I'm going to have with Bella. It hit me like a slap. He hadn't invited me out of kindness. He wanted to show off his new life, his wealthy fiancée, his victory. I took a deep breath, trying to understand why someone would send an invitation like that to a person who had once loved them deeply and cared for them through everything. The anger I had buried for years began to boil over, and that's when I decided, if he wanted to be petty, I could play that game too. I RSVP'd yes, with a +1. I had a plan. The plot. I began scrolling through Bella's social media, studying every photo and post. As luck would have it, I stumbled across her long-term ex, Jake. They had dated since high school and had broken up only 6 months ago. Her feed still had remnants of their history. I sent Jake a friend request, and to my surprise, he accepted. When I messaged him, I was honest about who I was and what Dylan had done to me. I told him I wanted to bring him to the wedding, not to hurt anyone, but to make a point. He was intrigued. Over time, our conversations deepened. He revealed that Bella had cheated on him multiple times, the last affair being with Dylan. That was news to me. He said Bella had always been drawn to older men and wasn't surprised when she declared she was in love with Dylan while still dating him. As our conversations unfolded, I told him my own story, how Dylan had used me emotionally and financially. I had supported him for years, paid for dates, even covered rent at times. Jake was stunned by how similar our stories were. Eventually, he agreed to come with me. The wedding day. The moment Dylan saw me walk in with Jake, his eyes widened in panic. He immediately recognized Jake. I ignored his expression and headed to my seat with Jake by my side. Dylan approached me, whispering furiously, "Why would you bring him?" I just smiled. He couldn't make a scene, not in front of everyone. He stormed off, seething. Then Bella made her entrance, gorgeous in her white gown, escorted by her father. The ceremony went on without a hitch, and we moved on to the reception. Bella had changed into a second dress. When she finally noticed Jake sitting beside me, her expression froze. She approached us and asked Jake, clearly shaken, "What are you doing here?" I smiled politely. I invited him as my guest. We just wanted to show our support. She turned red with anger and asked Jake if we were dating. He didn't answer because it wasn't worth dignifying. Jake asked her if they could talk in private. She nodded and cast me a final glare before walking off with him. Dylan, meanwhile, was watching the exchange like a hawk, but again, he couldn't do anything. He had to pretend everything was fine. An hour passed. The bride never returned. Guests began whispering. Bella's father grew visibly anxious and sent a bridesmaid to check on her. A few minutes later, the bridesmaid returned, holding a piece of paper. She announced loudly that Bella had run away with her ex, Jake. She read Bella's note aloud. Seeing Jake had made her realize she still loved him. Marrying Dylan would have been a mistake. The room was stunned. Dylan stood there, humiliated. Aftermath, I was shocked too. My intention had never been to ruin their wedding. I just wanted to be petty. But Dylan's elaborate attempt to flaunt his new life backfired. Gloriously. After I posted my story online, I received mixed reactions. Some people applauded me. Others said I went too far. So here's my clarification. I had no idea Bella would leave Dylan. That was between her and Jake. I just brought a +1, the same way Dylan invited me just to rub his success in my face. Later, Jake texted me. He said he and Bella had gone on the honeymoon she had originally planned with Dylan. They had also spoken with Bella's parents and were working things out. Meanwhile, Dylan had been calling and texting me non-stop, angrily blaming me for everything. I ignored him. Then he showed up at my door. At first, I refused to open it, but he wouldn't leave. So I cracked it open and told him to speak from outside. He yelled, saying I'd ruined his life. He had quit his job thinking Bella's wealth would take care of everything. He asked why I would bring Jake. I told him the truth. Because you used me for years and still had the audacity to flaunt your new life in my face. His face went pale. I told him I knew everything, that I had overheard him talking to Bella about how he used me. And even when he cheated on me, I never sought revenge until he sent me that smug invitation. He tried to justify everything, saying I was too naive, that it wasn't his fault I loved him. He ranted about how hard he'd worked to seduce Bella. I was disgusted. I warned him to leave or I'd call the police. He dared me, so I dialed. He backed off. That was the last time I saw him. I've since blocked him, changed my locks, and installed a security camera. Final update. A month later, Jake invited me to lunch. To my surprise, Bella was there too. At first, I was wary, but she greeted me warmly and apologized for everything, especially how she treated me before. She explained how Dylan had manipulated her just as he had me. When she saw me at the wedding, she felt insecure, seeing how independent I was. She admitted she had been wrong. Then she told me the full story. Dylan had constantly spoken badly about me to her while we were still together. When she was going through issues with Jake, Dylan swooped in, complimented her, flattered her, and eventually convinced her to leave Jake. But seeing Jake at the wedding reminded her what real love felt like. They've been together ever since. Her parents, initially furious, have come around. She plans to file for an annulment from Dylan. As for me, I'm not interested in being part of their drama. I'm focused on myself and my work. I'm healing, growing, and no longer giving my time to men like Dylan. I don't know what the future holds for him, but I do hope he finally learns that you can't build a future off manipulation.